talking about the AI governance. So, regarding AI governance, that in the aspect of urban management, first I will be discussing about what exactly is urban governance and what is the impact of AI. Urban governance refers to, according to the latest definition given by United Nations, as upholding the principles of rule of law, proper management of the waste, allocation of the resources, and any other services and activities the state provides to its citizens in a defined area. So when we refer to urban refers to mostly and mainly it is about the cities. Governance is the principle by which the cities are ruled and governed, and the proper allocation of the resources and management of the waste is done. Now the question is, why do we need urban governance, or why the cities need to be governed? The problem and the issue is, initially when the idea regarding the cities came, cities used to be built by empires, they used to be built by emperors, they did not have any formal management process. We have heard about the problem that Rome was not built in a day. So for the history, for the most part of the history before the Industrial Revolution, before 18th and 17th century, the cities were mostly exclusionary in nature, which means it is only the kings and the people who used to be along with the kings, a certain class, a section of elites, they used to be the members of the city. Sometimes it used to be a fortress city, sometimes it used to be a city only of the ministers and the king. But normal people were not allowed any entrance to the city. They used to be staying in the villages, they used to be owning the agricultural farms, they used to be plowing the agricultural lands. That was their role in the society. But after the Industrial Revolution, this whole idea of the elite, the king, the monarchy, it got diminished, as a result of which there is a huge influx of people that came around 18th and 19th century in the cities of Manchester, in other places, where the workers used to live in very gruel conditions, where they were not allowed the resources or access to resources that a certain section of the people had. That is why after the Industrial Revolution, when a lot of outbreak of the diseases happened, it was decided that a city should be built in such a manner that it should provide the access to resources to every section of society. It does not matter what his class is or which community he is belonging to, and accordingly, not only the access to resources, but also distribution of the resources and upholding the principles of rule of law should be maintained. Now the question is, how is artificial intelligence contributing to this whole discourse of urban governance? Now AI, we know as of now, is primarily categorized into two parts. One is natural language processing, which is NLP, and one is machine learning. Now the problem in the recent few decades is that there is a huge influx of the people who are coming and who are abandoning the traditional profession of agriculture, of rural households, and they are migrating to cities. By the year 2050, there has been a statistics that has been made where it has been thought of that in China, by the year 2050, 80% of the people will be living in the urban centers, which is the cities, which is the towns, and as a result of which, even now, in China and in most of the nations, we have certain cities where the population is going more than 10 million. To provide proper resources to every single person, it is not possible for the human beings because we don't have so many representations, we don't have so many people to look after the people. That is where the concept of AI comes. So there has been certain experiments made in certain cities whereby AI is used to either check how the management of the waste is done. In certain cases, they have been implemented by the means of facial recognition technology, whereby in the CCTV, algorithm has been inserted where certain people who are having the criminal tendencies, they will be identified, and accordingly, the state will ensure that the principle of rule of law is upheld. And there are multiple more applications. Now, it is also contributing to the discourse of sustainable development goals, because if we look into the principle 11, from 11.1 to 11.7, it talks about community management, participation of different communities, and proper allocation of the resources and waste management. AI will help in the longer run. It is both a boon as well as bane, because in the longer run, it helps in managing the resources because we require less people, and with the use of algorithm, we can have the process by which less people can be used to govern the whole city, to make sure there is proper management of the resources and allocation of the resources. Now there are certain technical issues, there are certain legal challenges, and also there are certain issues involved which we already know that how AI works, which are mostly the opacity of the AI, the nature of the black box which primarily deals with AI. So this part will be discussed by my co-presenter. She will be discussing about what exactly are the legal challenges we face when we talk about the AI governance.
Hello everyone. I think while talking he just forgets to change the slides. I think he has already covered 4 slides here. So let's talk about AI and its integration in urban development and how and what are the legal challenges we are facing nowadays basically. So let's talk about, there are 2 ethical challenges we are facing now. One is algorithm bias and the other one is black box decision making. So whenever we are talking about AI, as Sir explained already, that it works with the help of a huge amount of data. So whenever we are relying on the huge amount of data, we are not understanding what is the amount of or what is the nature of data we are collecting. Cut short, we are becoming biased into our judgment. Next one is black box decision making, means whenever we are collecting a huge amount of data for AI and its integration into the urban development, we don't know, the explanation or the output of it is quite a complicated process altogether. And since these are the 2 basic ethical challenges which we have seen in AI and its integration in urban development, we can see that there are certain legal gaps while making it a comparative analysis and studying in various jurisdictions across. Now let's talk about EU first. EU is the first nation which has AI Act, which has clarified AI system into various risk factors. Low factors there, high risk factors there, minimal risk factors there. But when it comes to AI and its integration into urban development, the high risk factor mandates the entire possibility there. Next one is Singapore Smart Nation Rules. Singapore is one such place which encourages algorithm transparency, sectoral code of conduct. Since we know that urban development, which is covering a huge, vast nature of field, it is being covered with the help of environment, waste management, electricity, traffic management, so and so. So whenever we are relying with so many things into a governance system, which is an urban governance nature, Singapore is one such place which encourages a proper level of transparency and biasness when it comes to say. Next one is, let's talk about what is the constitutional gaps we have across the various jurisdictions. Now, Sir has already explained that since this AI and urban development is complying with Sustainable Development Principle 11, which talks about smart cities and smart towns management. But while managing the smart cities and sustainability principles, are they respecting the basic rights of the citizens? Are they respecting the basic fundamental rights of the citizens? Now, let's talk about in the context of India. So whenever you are not maintaining the basic rights, which is the fundamental rights in India, now we all know that we have a Puttaswamy judgment in India which says that privacy is one of the fundamental rights under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. So it is a clear-cut violation of Article 14, 21 and 39 subsection 4 subclause D of the Indian Constitution. Next one is, let's talk about the other global benchmarks. As I have already discussed EU and Singapore, let's move forward. Yeah. Now let's talk about, after discussing the global legal benchmarks, let's talk about the judicial accountability and what role it has to play when it comes to AI and its integration into the urban development. First one is the very opaque nature of AI. If it's an opaque nature, that means the entire system is not at all transparent, it's complicated, hence the procedure is very much complicated and difficult. Next one is, as I have already discussed, the EU Act 2021, which enforces transparency, conformity of assessment for high risk, and Singapore model of governance, which is a sector-specific risk protocol and ethic audits. When I'm talking about that it's a sector-specific risk audit means it has better moves when it comes to waste management, it has some different moves when it comes to environment, and it has various principles and visions when it comes to different features of urban model, urban governance. Next one is Indian legal vacuum. Now, after studying the jurisdiction of EU and Singapore, what we can come to places like India, which is still in a very developing phase. We have a law which is Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023, which is still, I mean, there is no clear-cut mandate when it comes to the black box decision making and the algorithm biases. And even though we have certain guidelines, which is a smart cities move and a national strategy for artificial intelligence. They are basically the guidelines which are to be followed, but they are not the law. Then, now apart from global legal benchmarks and the judicial accountability, we have another loopholes in the entire system, which is the fragmented institutional landscape. So not only the legislative move or the judicial interpretation or accountability, but whatever the laws or the policies or the guidelines we have at the local level, this is also quite overlapping in nature. Apart from this, as I have already discussed, that discussing these rights or respecting these rights while integrating AI into the urban development system. Are we respecting the basic rights of the citizen? No. Clear cut, it is infringing the very much fundamental rights of Indian citizen, which is mentioned under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. And if while integrating such principles into one, if you're not following the due process course of law, then that is a very problematic situation, as we have seen in the case of Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India. Now, there are certain urgent reforms which are needed in this area, which is we need to have a statutory guidelines when it comes to algorithm impact assessment and public facing audit system. Last one is